Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Tim Vixay with my crippled friend, and this is episode number 48. And we're on Skype with one of my crippled friends somewhere outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. His name is Greg Traynor, and he is the founder of Accessible Hunter and the Accessible Hunter podcast. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on today. This is a first doing a Skype interview for a podcast, and I'm pretty excited to be on with you. So thank you.
Yeah, I wish the circumstances were a little bit different. We could do this in person, but either way, I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad we were able to make this happen. Um, how are you doing during this lockdown?
I'm doing pretty good. I've got all the supplies I need and everything. I've kind of stockpiled a little bit of medical supplies as far as catheters and bags and things over the years. So I've got everything I need to stay safe, and I'm doing pretty good. Just staying locked down and not going out or anything that I don't have to.
What's the situation like right now in Pennsylvania? Are you guys on official lockdown? And
We really are. The governor has ordered that we basically stay inside except for essentials. So if you need to go to the grocery store or pharmacy, that's okay. But they're recommending that you stay in. And of course, I'm really trying to heed those warnings. I don't go out a whole lot right now if I don't have to, and just try to limit contact with people and try to do the safe thing. They said that the schools are closed until the next year, and kids are going to school online, that kind of thing. So I
yeah,
think everybody's heeding the warning as much as they can, and just trying to be safe. And hopefully this passes, quickly for us.
yeah, I agree. For me, man, it's almost been a month now. I mean, I was in Illinois last month, and Uh, that was right before things kind of went official on lockdown. You know, the West Coast got hit pretty bad, and then it just started spreading all over. And I was just like, man, I'm gonna have to make a run to try to get back home to Oregon soon, because if things get really locked down, I would much rather be at home with my family. And at least there, I knew I had like you said, a stockpile of some catheters and some extra stuff that you need. Um, but what was interesting was right before I got on this call with you, I was looking for a turkey gun because I'm gonna go turkey hunting next month,
Nice.
and I didn't have a turkey shotgun, and I was able to buy one uh, from Sportsman.com, Sportsman Warehouse online, and get it shipped out to the nearest store to me, and I just got to go, do my background check and then pick it up. So that was kind of a interesting buying process. Never bought a gun online before.
I've never done them online before. I know you can get them shipped to, a local federal firearms license
hmm
dealer, and I guess the process is pretty smooth. What kind of shotgun did you end up getting?
I went with it wasn't my first choice, but I went with the Mossberg 930 turkey gun. I wanted the same gun and the 930, but in a pistol grip. But they didn't have it, and I called around to all the other different stores, and apparently when this thing kind of hit the fan, like everybody was buying up any kind of gun, and it didn't matter if it was a hunting shotgun or a tactical shotgun. Pretty
Sure.
much shotguns just went out the door. So, but should be pretty happy with it. It's the reason I wanted the pistol grip was, I come from a AR-15 background, being in the military and then just shooting it privately as a civilian. So shooting rifles with pistol grips have just kind of been my thing and kind of what I've gotten used to. Of course, like my hunting rifle's a bolt action 30-06, but it's got a regular stock, and it's a little bit different to shoot. For some reason, pistol grips just kind of seem natural to me.
More comfortable for you, what you're familiar with. And
Yeah,
I don't think you can go wrong with a Mossberg or, Remington Mix, the classic 870. And it's all in what you enjoy shooting. And I don't think you can go wrong, no
yeah.
matter what
The
choice.
uh, the 870 is actually the first gun I ever bought when I was 18 years old in one day. I bought it. I think I bought it the day after my 18th birthday, but it's a security shotgun with an 18-inch barrel. So
Gotcha.
I don't think I want to take that out in the field.
No, no, you'd be successful at it though. I'm sure. No matter what you're shooting, something tells me you can shoot, so I think you'd be fine.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't really grow up shooting or anything. It was kind of something that kind of came later in life. And I didn't really grow up hunting at all either. Just didn't have anyone in the family that really did it, or anyone nearby really that hunted. So um, starting to get into it kind of later in life, but finding out that I'm enjoying a lot of the different aspects of hunting. I mean, it's more than just going out there and killing an animal. Although I mean that part is great. The meat is awesome, but it's also just getting outside and hanging out with some buddies and just being outdoors and kind of just on I guess unplugging from society and civilization and just getting out there.
The more people I talk to, you'd be surprised how many guys and ladies are starting hunting later in life. That they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're really just starting hunting. I was pretty fortunate that I grew up in a hunting family, and here in Pennsylvania, a lot of us start hunting at about the age of 12, as soon as you can apply for your hunter safety course.
Yeah.
They give you the first day of deer season off of school here. So it's a pretty big deal in Pennsylvania. We have a lot of hunters, but surprisingly, the more people I talk to, I find, people are hunting later in life and really getting the most out of the experience.
Yeah. So, like you said, you grew up in Pennsylvania. Where are you actually?
I'm right outside of Pittsburgh. I'm about 20 minutes south of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I grew up in a little town in Fayette County, Connellsville, PA. And it's a real small area. We go hunting and fishing, hiking, that kind of thing. But we can still be in the city in an hour. So it's rural, but close enough to the city. I'm a big Penguins hockey fan, and I go to a lot of Penguin hockey games and that kind of thing. But traveled around a little bit for work before my injury and moved a bunch of different places, but moved back home and got back to Pennsylvania after my injury, but grew up here in PA.
What kind of work did you do before your injury?
I was a senior field auditor for Payless Shoe Stores.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I worked for them for about 10 years and traveled around doing store audits and that kind of thing. So had a pretty good experience with meeting different people and working with different people every day. And did a lot of travel and um, lived out in Kansas for a while, up in Massachusetts and West Virginia and a couple different spots, but got to travel a lot with
That's
the
great.
company. Yeah.
And so, with your injury, how old were you when that happened?
I was 31. Um, I was living up in Cape Cod, and it was kind of a weird thing. I've always been like an outdoorsman, rode motorcycles, and you know, skydived, hunted out of tree stands, all that kind of stuff. And I ended up getting hurt in a diving accident, but I was in waist deep water and sandy bottom beach. Thought I dove out, didn't dive off of anything,
Mhm.
and hit my head on the beach and broke my neck that way. So it was kind of a low risk activity as far as that goes, but uh, broke my neck at the C4-5 level, and that was in 1999. And I've been a quad for 21 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and I mean, getting hurt because I got hurt a month before my 21st birthday.
Okay.
Um, but I think getting hurt later in life probably has its certain benefits too, because you got to live out your 20s as an AB and kind of get that experience. But so after your injury, did you take some time off for rehab and all that?
Oh, absolutely. Right whenever I had my injury, I was living on the Cape and I got life flighted to Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. And I had a couple of surgeries on my neck and They did the whole cage thing around that, and I was, basically in a induced coma, and uh, don't remember the first month in the hospital there. And then I got flown down to Shepherd Center in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if you're familiar with Shepherd.
Yep, I've heard of them.
And I was really impressed with their whole hospital, the nursing staff, the doctors, and they had a really great therapeutic rec department. And I was there for probably, I want to say four almost 5 months.
Oh wow,
And
did they get you playing wheelchair rugby or anything while you were down there?
I didn't play wheelchair rugby, but they took me shooting actually in my hospital bed, almost from the get go. As soon as they found out that I was kind of a big outdoorsman, they said, "Well,
Yeah,
have you thought about how you're going to hunt again and shooting that?" And of course, I was newly injured. I wasn't really thinking that I could do anything like that. And they got me shooting air rifle and a 22 right away. But I was still high level quad. I didn't really have any arm movement
yeah.
for almost a couple of years, really.
Hmm.
And that kind of stuck in the back of my head until I was ready to go hunting again. And it took me almost about 10 years before I thought I'd be able to go hunting again. But
Really, that long?
yeah, I had a lot of complications and pneumonia a few times, and um, it was a hard transition. But once I got my mind made up that I was going to go back hunting and go back to school and things, it was kind of a slow progression. But I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah, that's great. Because like I guess I mean I got hurt in 2008. Um, but it seems like now the people that are getting hurt are getting out more early than what they used to, and I think a lot of it has to do with the internet, where they're seeing other people, like with me, before I started shooting again, I was looking up videos on, I think it was just YouTube, or maybe no, I don't even think it was Facebook at the time. I think it was just YouTube, about just people shooting in wheelchairs. And then it just kind of got the gears turning in my head, and I was like, okay, this is totally, this is
Doable.
still in my wheelhouse. I could still do this. And I think
That-
the
That's the whole
internet's been a big resource for that.
that's the whole reason I started Accessible Hunter, because whenever I started hunting again in 2010, there wasn't really a whole lot of information available. And
Hmm.
I just started with a blog, just kind of like, hey, this is my diary, how I'm doing things, and wanted to put it out there that I was still able to hunt and shoot and, get after it. And there wasn't a whole lot of information available. So that's why I started Accessible Hunter then.
Yeah. So what was walk me through it. Like, what was your first hunt like experience, like as far as the preparations?
Well, going back to Shepherd Center, they used an adapted trigger mechanism. It's made by BMF trigger activator, and it's almost like a crank, and like a Gatling gun crank.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yep, and it goes into the trigger housing. So even though I can't feel my arms, I could still use my wrist and kind of bump the trigger.
Yep.
So I got kind of hooked up with Buckmasters, and they had sent me a crossbow and a mount that was pretty generic, but got me, able to go to the shooting range and stuff. And I was a really big bow hunter before my injury, and my first hunt was actually put on by Whitetail Management here in Pittsburgh, and it was a group of guys that did whitetail management in parks and cemeteries and things like that. So my first hunt as a quadriplegic was actually in a cemetery with a group of guys, and I ended up shooting a doe and a 8 point buck out of a cemetery, and it was just a phenomenal experience. I was hunting out of a ground blind with my brother John, and it was just really an experience to let me know, hey, I could still do this. And I had done a lot of practice at the archery range before time, and it wasn't like I had to learn how to hunt again, but I had to learn how to do it again as a quadriplegic. And
Yeah. All those skills are still there. You just got to know how to apply it now.
right, and I was really trying to be super careful and make the best shot, be ethical,
Of
and
course.
it just like the stars aligned. The first deer that I got a shot at was a pretty nice sized mature doe, and she was walking about 25 yards and stopped right in front of the ground blind. Gave me a really good shot, and I took it, and she didn't go very far. And I was so excited about that. That was in the morning, and the guys retrieved my deer, and we were kind of high-fiving and celebrating, and I thought the day was over, and the guys were like, well, wait till the evening hunt, we're sure you're going to get a shot at a buck. And I was so excited, and that kind of started the whole process of getting back hunting again, and it really kind of snowballed from there, where I don't do a lot of organized hunts like that now. I just hunt mostly with friends and family, or go on, trips myself, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a great experience. It's one of my most memorable hunts, hunting in a cemetery in Pittsburgh and
Right.
harvesting 2 deer. So it
I
was
I've
something.
never used a ground blind. Were you in your power chair at the time?
I was in my everyday power chair, a Permobil, and I just pull in, and they drop the ground blind over top of me,
Mhm.
and makes for a nice, concealment. Um, I like to use a pop-up ground blind. The Ameriprise makes a doghouse ground blind. They're not very expensive, and they're a little bit tough to fold up. The people that are helping me, you have to kind of figure that out. There's a YouTube video on how to fold it, but it pops open like an umbrella almost, and
Okay.
it's really cool to hunt out of, and it's comfortable for 2 people.
Yeah. Um, and what month is this? Is this what, like early September?
October is usually when we hunt in Pennsylvania archery. Now they changed the regulation since then, where it comes in September, so the weather is really beautiful.
Hmm.
Uh, the fall here in Pennsylvania, it's probably 65, 70 degrees. It's just a beautiful time to be in the woods.
Yeah, that's actually why I asked, because I've gone each time that I've gone, it's been oh, I can't remember now. It's usually in October, out in Eastern Oregon, up in the high desert, and it's in the morning it's probably about 25, 26 degrees, then it might warm up to about maybe high 30s.
It,
Um,
it makes for a cold hunt. I've been on a few late November archery hunts, and we did one hunt out in Illinois, and it was like 15 degrees,
ooh.
and it's tough to stay in a ground blind all day in those kind of conditions for sure.
Are you wearing anything or doing anything special to keep warm?
I do. I wear some like boot blankets. They're insulated, big puffy boots that kind of help my feet. I'm always concerned about frostbite, that kind of thing,
Oh yeah.
because I can't feel from the shoulders down, and about mid bicep, but you have to be aware of things getting cold. Um, Up until this year, I never used a heater in the ground blind, but I was hunting in Maryland with my friend Matt, and we used a ground blind heater, it's called a buddy heater, I think, or something like that.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
little propane heater,
Yeah, I know what you're
and
talking about.
I thought it would spook the deer, but it really didn't have any effect on them. And we stayed toasty warm in the ground blind. And I thought, heck, man, I've been freezing my butt off for 9 years. In the wintertime, I should have had one of these buddy heaters all along, But I was always afraid the smell would spook the deer, but it seemed like they could care less. So this
Yeah.
November, if I'm fortunate enough to go down to Maryland with Matt, I'm definitely going to use that buddy heater again.
And those things they're pretty quiet, right?
Yeah, there's not really any real noticeable sound other than whenever they start up, you click the button
Mm-hmm.
kind of. And I wear like a wool jacket, and I layer with a couple layers of clothes, and then I have a wool blanket that I put over my lap and kind of wrap my legs in. Um,
Yeah.
I just try to stay safe and try to stay warm, and scarf and a nice wool hat.
I need to try to find a wool blanket because that's one thing where once my legs get cold, I mean my day's done. I'm gonna be, shivering and jackhammering pretty much the entire day until I can lay down or take a hot shower. But I noticed last time I went out, we just had a couple extra jackets that we just threw over my legs, and that did the trick. So I think, yeah, I think you're right there. Is just a nice small wool blanket, I think would really do the trick. Um,
Yeah, just 90% wool, and I got mine on Amazon. I think they're basically just the old army blankets, and they're pretty big. So I cut it in half and then just kind of wrap it around me a little bit. And when I get really cold, my arms start to pull up. It's kind of a weird effect, but then I can't aim or shoot or anything. And I switched over from that crank BMF trigger. I'll still use it sometimes for turkey, but whenever I'm using my crossbow or rifle, I switched to a sip and puff trigger from Be Adaptive, and I'm just a lot more accurate with it because when I was using that crank, I'd have to look through my scope and then look at my hand and kind of like gauge, when to
yeah.
pull the trigger. But with the sip and puff, you're just sucking on a straw, and it really narrowed my groups down. So I'm able to hold a pretty decent group at 100 yards with a rifle now.
Well, I would also imagine with the sip and puff, you kind of have a little bit more tactile feel
Yep.
with the trigger versus the crank, where it's just kind of
Right. I
you
couldn't
got all
feel it.
that leverage on there, so it's like it just kind of just once it drops, it's kind of like just jerking the trigger. I would imagine. I've never actually used one.
It's actually pretty smooth. I mean, it's a crank process, and for a shotgun, like I've killed a lot of turkeys using it, and
Hmm.
it's definitely it's a cheap trigger that works for a lot of people, and I really recommend it for shotgun hunting. But with a rifle and stuff, you're right. You want to get that tactile feedback, and you don't want to be you almost want it to be surprised when you're able-bodied when that rifle goes off, but when you're hunting and you're a quad, you really want to be precise with it. So I like the sip and puff for my rifle.
Hmm. Might have to try one, just so I can get a feel for it. Because with me, I'm able, if I have the rifle rested on something, I'm able to pull it with my left thumb. And what
Okay.
I'll do is I'll grab the buttstock with my right hand, pull it into my shoulder, and then I'll use my left thumb to pull. And I've been able to do. I mean, I that's how I shoot like AR-15s and bolt action rifles and shotguns. And then I ordered a crossbow last week. And unfortunately, they're not going to ship that thing out until this whole COVID thing kind of settles down. But I'm sure I'll have to play around and figure out how to pull that trigger too. But um, are you using any sort of mount? Are you still hunting from your power chair, or you have an off-road chair now?
I have an off-road chair. I've got a track fab 30-inch model, and I do use a mount too. There's a lot of high-level quad mounts out on the internet kind of thing. But I found, making my own mount, I kind of designed it with another buddy, and he welded it up for me. And I use it with my shotgun, my rifle, and crossbow. It's super adjustable, and we use a what is it? It's a clamp on the front. Oh man, I forget the name of it. Hog saddle mount. I don't know if you're familiar with hog saddle or not.
No, but I can look it up. Keep talking. I'll See if I can
It's
pull up a
it's
picture.
it's a clamp that a lot of like Marine Corps snipers and military use it. Josh, the guy that invented it, he was in the Marines, and it's called a hog saddle mount. And I use it with the mount that my friend Jesse and I made, and it really holds everything super stable. And I combined that with that sip and puff trigger, and I got left and right movement and up and down, and I mount that on my track fab, and it's almost like a rolling tank. It's it's super cool.
Okay, I see what you're talking about.
I was having a brain moment there. I couldn't think of it, and I've used it for the last, you know, 5 or 6 years, and it makes it such a big difference. I don't have to zip tie in my rifle or kind of try to lock everything in. It holds it
Yeah.
really well.
Well, I'll have to look into this. Kind of well, the actual hogsaddle.com that I'm on, they're actually kind of expensive. There is a pig saddle, which I think is
It's a lighter weight version is the pig saddle,
okay.
but for a crossbow or a shotgun, it would be just as good.
Yeah. I'll have to
Same
look into
same guy, same company.
I just ordered I was talking with one of my friends. He's a big hunter down in Jacksonville. Actually you might know him. His name's Ronnie Adams.
Sounds familiar. I'm sure we're probably on Facebook.
Mhm. But he told me about a product called the Caldwell Tree Pod, and it's like a pod or a like a bipod that's designed for mounting onto a tree blind or a tree stand. But he just mounts it right onto the foot plate of his track chair.
Right. A lot of guys use that. I actually had some conversations with Codwell in 2010 and kind of showed him my mount. And I, I kind of think they took the idea and ran with it a little bit. But I know a lot of guys that use that, especially mounted onto their track chairs.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I have is the action track chair,
I,
the full
I had
size one.
I had the action track at the beginning, and I sold it and went with the track fab about 3 years ago. I love the action track chair. It's a great chair, but at the time they didn't make the smaller, narrower version.
Oh, the NT.
The NT they do now, which is awesome. The track fab that I have, it has my rehab seating on it, so I can do my weight shifts and recline and tilt. I had the original action track chair, but I had to trailer it everywhere, and that was kind of tough. Um,
Yeah.
you know, the chair I have now, the track fab, I can take it in hotel rooms with me and charge up and everything. My action track, whenever I went out west to Illinois deer hunting, I'd pull my van up with the trailer next to the hotel room and run 100-foot extension cord from the hotel out to the trailer and charge up my track chair overnight.
Yeah.
It's a great chair, and I know the people at Action Track, and they do a phenomenal job. It's a great chair. So whatever model you have, it's going to work for you.
Yeah. Fortunately, I've gone hunting twice now, and it's out at this guy's house out in Eastern Oregon, and we're able to just charge it kind of right next to the house, and the house is accessible, so I don't ever have to deal with hotels or anything. But I was listening to a podcast that you had done. I forget which one, but you mentioned that you just got a Dodge ProMaster.
I did. I've got a full size Dodge ProMaster. It's a huge van,
Yeah,
but
those things are
I
monsters.
oh they are, but it's great for taking two wheelchairs. So I pull in with my everyday wheelchair and then just put the track fab behind me, and load up all my hunting gear, and heck, I got gun racks in the van and stuff. So it's a rolling equipment locker. It really is.
Yeah. Now, in Pennsylvania, can you hunt from your vehicle?
If you have a permit.
Hmm.
And I do have a permit. So last year, I was able to go out on state game lands and, pull up, open up the side door of my van. And it's almost like a ground blind. Then, you're sitting in there. I ran the heater again and stayed warm, and it
Yeah.
makes a pretty nice setup. It really does. And surprisingly, game's not too spooked whenever it comes to vehicles. So kind of works out.
Hmm. It's interesting. I drive a truck right now, but I'm looking at getting a full size. I'm looking at the Ford Transits, um, full size van, just because I want to get something that I can like put a bed in and just
Yep.
and sleep in.
I looked at the Ford Transits first, and their rear wheel drive, at least the models that were available a couple years ago whenever I was looking, and that's why I went with the Dodge because it was front wheel drive.
Yeah.
And I live on a little bit of a hill, and I just thought the front wheel drive would be better. But the size of the van's really nice. My ramp or my lift is in the back of my van, so parking next to people. I don't have to worry about getting parked in. Um,
Ah, yeah.
I can get in the back of the van, but I don't drive this van independently. Um, so that would be something you'd have to look into. Like there's a little lip getting into the front section or the cab section of the Transit and of the Dodge ProMaster. So I'm sure you'd have to check that out to make it accessible for you.
Yeah, I'd have to. I haven't really done a whole lot of research because that was going to be my little project this month. But then, you know, this quarantine happened and kind
Right.
of threw a wrench into a lot of things.
Everything's on hold and shut down. I was planning on going turkey hunting next month. I think May 2nd is when Pennsylvania starts. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get out with the quarantine and everything. I mean, hunting season's still open and people can still go, but I just don't know if I'll be able to get out. And as far as making plans, I'm kind of just in a holding pattern, I guess, with everybody else.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough call. It's probably going to be a game time decision for me, just because. I mean, even if I get out there, I got friends that have property in Southern Oregon, and it's like even if I can get out there and everything goes good, like if let's say I got sick, not even like corona sick, but let's just say I just got, you know, uh, an unrelated illness or an injury and I had to go to the hospital. Um, now I got to take on that risk, and then it's gonna be a tough call. But
It's a lot to think about. I mean, you and I have to plan everything out, and um, I was always a big list maker before to make sure I had all my gear and equipment and stuff. And
yeah,
now it's just everything's so much more important. If you don't have it, it could be life or death. Um, Funny story about not having your equipment or not planning stuff. Using a sip and puff trigger, it plugs into my track chair. And I was hunting last year with my brother, and he forgot, and I forgot to plug my uh, trigger in. So he went off to his tree stand, and I sat there and realized about an hour later that I didn't have my trigger plugged in. So at that time, I became a watcher, not a hunter. So that was funny. But that's all part of hunting and the experience.
yeah, you learn. Um,
Absolutely.
I forgot this past year. I forgot my gun mount, so we rigged up. We put my headrest because I have a headrest for my track chair, and it's got the same square. I think it's just a 1 inch square receiver. But we just moved that into the little square receiver by my left leg, and just kind of shimmed it up and made it work. Just so I could have
Work
something to,
fine.
yeah, just so I can have something to rest the fore end on. But yeah, it's like you said, you gotta lay out your equipment and just make sure you got everything. So Good news though is being locked down this time of year is usually you're planning most of your fall hunts. Are you I'm sure you've already kind of thought about what you want to do in the fall this season.
I really want to go back to Maryland, go to the Eastern Shore. My friend Matt lives there, and he leases some property. And I've been going down there the last few years and been successful. And it's a really an easy hunt. We get a hotel room on the Eastern Shore, and you don't have to wake up early in the morning to go. We wake up, we go have seafood for lunch,
Wow.
and head out and hunt the property and hunt till dark. And it's just a really good time. And getting to see Matt is always fun. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that this coronavirus, you know, passes over us or we get back to normal. I'd love to go there in November and hunt. Um, that's my big plan. Um,
Is that rifle or crossbow?
Crossbow,
Okay.
crossbow. I'll probably just stay here in Pennsylvania for rifle season, um, and that always starts the Saturday after Thanksgiving. It used to be the first Monday after Thanksgiving. They just recently changed that to Saturday, and I'm looking forward to that too. But if I get the opportunity, I'm going to go to Maryland in the fall in
Yeah.
November.
Going back to rifle hunting, what caliber rifle are you using?
I like to use a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Okay.
Um, I've always shot basically my 308 rifle, but 2 years ago I went with the 6.5 Creedmoor. It's just a smaller rifle. I had it's the Stealth, and it was on almost like the AR platform with the adjustable stock.
Yep.
But we took off the adjustable stock and just put a 2-inch stock on it. It's bolt action, um, but it really decreased the size of the rifle to fit into my mount, so that my chin fits right on the edge of my mount, and then I'm able to get really good eye relief. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm able to get my face up close to the scope without that long stock. Um,
Hmm.
so I switch back and forth between the 6.5 Creedmoor or 308.
Yeah.
Um,
That's always a big debate, especially with like quadriplegic shooters, is like how much felt recoil can you really handle?
what,
Um,
what's nice is my mount takes 90% of the recoil. I end up getting my chin smacked from the mount a little bit, but I figure it's worth it. You know, it's like taking a punch in the mouth there to shoot. But um, I enjoy the setup as far as the eye relief and everything. Um,
mhm. Yeah, the only 308 I have is my Springfield M1A, which I guess you could take that out hunting, but I'm not really designed for it. But as far as recoil, 308's pretty tame.
yeah,
Uh, I just bought a 30-06 for last season because the first time I went hunting, I just used my 223 AR-15. Um, and I mean it worked fine, but I wanted a proper bolt gun, and so I bought a 30-06. Um, and man, that thing kicks.
yeah. I haven't shot a 30-06 since I was able-bodied, and you know, everybody has their favorite rifle, and it's all about shot placement as far as my opinion goes. If you
Yeah,
make a good shot on a deer, the 223 is going to absolutely do the job. Or
right.
uh, I've shot deer with a 243. It's low recoil, but they certainly can put a deer down. And I'm not a real long range shooter. Most of the shots here in Pennsylvania, are for me under 100 yards.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so we don't do a lot of long range shooting. Even at the rifle ranges here, 200 yards is probably my max on a shot. And I try to, be ethical, take a good shot. If I don't have, a 100% chance of getting it, usually I don't take that shot. And
Yeah.
it's whatever you enjoy shooting, and as long as you practice with it and you're able to make a good shot, you know, it's up to you what you decide to use.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the 30-06, I mean, when you're out hunting, it's usually you're gonna get one shot off. And that
Especially you and me, right?
yeah, and that's fine, just, taking one shot, but it's when you're practicing and you're sighting it in, you're just those days when you're at the range, you're, sighting it in, you're just like, "Oh man, one box of ammo," and then the next day your shoulder feel
Sure.
like feel like you just got, I don't know, hit with a sledgehammer.
It's definitely a challenge to shoot a box of odd sixes.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're still talking about weapons, what kind of crossbow do you have?
I shoot a 10-point stealth NXT.
Ah, that's the one I was looking at.
They're super crossbows. Um, I've had a couple different models of crossbows over the years. I started off with Horton, and then I went to Parker Buckbuster. And my last couple of crossbows have been 10-point, and they're just a quality company. They're made out here in Ohio, and they group extremely well. I've never had any issues with it. Um, I probably like it the best. It's super fast. There's a little bit of noise associated with it. It's a little bit loud, but super accurate. And I really like the 10-point.
Yeah, so, since we've been in lockdown, I've just been looking at up things on the internet, stuff I want, and I noticed that the Stealth NXTs were on sale actually. I was trying to figure out why, and they had just released their new line for 2020, and
Right,
it's got the decocking, which was kind of the big thing that 10 point was missing for the longest time.
right,
Um, so I ended up spending a little bit of money on their middle of the line. I think it's called the Vengeant. There's the Vapor, the Vengeant, and the Viper, and I just went with the middle of the road.
right. I don't think you can go wrong with them. Um, I know that the decocking, mechanism is big for a lot of people, but we just use a decocking bolt, and at the end of the hunt, I just shoot it off into the ground. And
Hmm.
that decocking bolt, it has like a little washer on it. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever used them, but
No.
it doesn't bury the bolt then into the ground. And for the price difference, uh, it's it's kind of it's a lot more. It's cheaper to shoot it off every night than to worry
Yeah.
about decocking.
Yeah. Well, I have zero experience with crossbows or even just compound bows or any sort of bow really. So I wanted to make sure that it was going to be, a bow that I could safely use, that I
I
could cock and
I
sh-
think the caulking feature on the newer 10 points is a lot safer. That there's no like real resistance when you crank it.
yep.
I think the crank has gotten better. Um, the
And then
crank
they did the extended handle too.
right gives you a little bit more leverage.
Yep.
And I think on the stealth, it's about an 8 point or an eight pound crank
Hmm.
whenever you're rotating it. And I think that's gotten better on the new ones. But that was one of the big reasons why I went with 10 point was because they had the crank, and we were able to crank up the crossbow pretty easily. Um,
Yeah. Most of the guys that I've talked to that shoot crossbows, all say 10 points. If you can afford them,
right,
go with 10.
those in mission crossbows. And the other thing about the crank is you're aligning that string the same place every time. So you're getting a much more accurate shot because you're using the crank. Whereas if you were just pulling a crossbow to cock it yourself,
Hmm.
it's more accurate that way.
And let's see. So we covered rifle, we covered crossbow. What kind of shotgun are you using?
I use a couple of different shotguns. I use the Remington 870, and then I have the Mossberg. Um, I forget the model.
Is it
I
the
forget.
offloader?
No, it's just a pump, but it has two barrels. It's got a rifle barrel and then a regular shotgun barrel. And then I also have a Stoger that is a semi-auto, and I've used that this year for snow geese. I didn't get any shots at snow geese, but I took it with me. It was fun. Um, I think a lot of the uh, things that impact your shotgun is the choke, and I use Kicks chokes for like my turkey choke, and when we do turkey shoots for the card stock, I've got a different choke that I put in for shooting competition kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. What other types of game do you hunt?
We hunt a lot of turkeys, deer, pheasants, squirrel. Um, let's see, that's about it. I've always wanted to do like an elk hunt or something big, but I've never had the opportunity for it. Hunted hogs. Um,
Well, I
I've
imagine elk hunting, you got to kind of come out more west for that, right?
Well, Pennsylvania has an elk draw where they let you put in for a lottery. They pull, I think it's like 130 applicants out of probably 30,000 people put in for it.
Hmm.
It costs you like $10 to put in for the lottery. I put in every year, but have never gotten picked. But Pennsylvania does have an elk hunt, but it's really small.
Yeah. And these are Roosevelt elks or?
I believe so. They were reintroduced up in northern PA, up near Benezet, and they take off about 130 animals. I think 30 bulls and maybe like 100 cows a year.
Wow. What out of all of those, what is your kind of favorite hunt?
Um, my favorite hunt is probably whitetail on the eastern shore. There's some really big whitetails down there.
Yeah.
Uh, I've gone bear hunting in the spring over bait, able-bodied in Canada. That was a fun hunt with my buddy, but the bugs were just terrible in Canada. I felt like I was getting eaten alive, but I really enjoy hunting anything. I mean, when I go out with friends and family, even squirrel hunting, that's a good time for me. Getting out in the woods and uh, experiencing what's going to walk by next. Um,
Yeah.
I just really enjoy being out, but I think whitetail hunting is always my favorite because I grew up doing that. It's familiar to me. If I had an opportunity at going on an elk hunt or maybe like a fallow deer or something like that, I'd really like to do that. Um, I'm happy just getting out though. Anytime I get to spend time with friends and family and get to experience a hunt, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's all about, really, is just uh getting out there, and spending time with, either friends or family and um
I think it makes me kind of appreciate it a lot more that, it took me a long time to get movement in my arms and to kind of get strong enough mentally and physically. I mean, it was a big transition for me and it took me a long time. So I think I appreciate it maybe more than the able-bodied guy that can go out anytime they want. Whenever I get out, I make the most of it. I really enjoy being out in my track chair and tooling around and being as independent as possible and still being able to do things. It means a lot more to me now than I think whenever I was able-bodied.
right. All right. Let's we can go ahead and wrap this up. Do you want to tell them about Accessible Hunter, where they can find you?
Sure. I'm on Facebook. Is Accessible Hunter, and I also have a accessiblehunter.com. That's really not updated very frequently. It's just some pictures and couple of videos. But Accessible Hunter on Facebook is where we post, and we share a lot of stories throughout the country. And recently, we started the Accessible Hunter podcast, Mike Hudson and myself, and we try to talk with different people throughout the country with disabilities, and just kind of spread the word that hey, you can still do it, and no matter how you get there, get there.
I love it. And Mike Hudson is also a quadriplegic, right?
He is. He's a quadriplegic, and he started an organization called Roar. And Mike is a Marine Corps veteran and a great guy. He's down in South Carolina, and he's getting after it every day, and he's making the best of it that he can do. He's a huge hunter, and you and Mike would have a lot in common.
I think so. I think you're gonna have to make that connection. And you said that was ROAR, ROAR. It's actually a acronym, and I'm always trying to remember what it. I looked it up.
Return to the outdoors, I believe. Um, I can't.
No. Rediscovering outdoor and recreation,
I think you're right, Tim.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, well, we can wrap this up. Hey, Greg, thanks again for doing this, and hope hope to see you out there sometime soon.
Hey, absolutely. I really appreciate you having me on, and it's always fun to talk about getting out in the outdoors. So, thank you so much for all you do for people with disabilities, and I enjoy seeing your YouTube, and you guys are getting after it. So, I'm gonna have to watch a lot more of your YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, I finally got caught up on that, so I'm actually going to be going through and clipping things out. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, I'll be uploading some shorter clips. You don't have to listen to, you know, 2.5 hours of me just rambling.
We're
We'll
we're
actually
in
segment it out.
we're in lockdown, man. I'm looking for good
More.
quality videos. So I'll check it out for sure.
All right, Greg. Well, it was great having you on, and hopefully we'll get you back on soon.
Sounds great, man. Thanks so much.